difficulties that we have since sorted out, and we're ready to move all ahead with our afternoon. As the choir comes on, I wanted to start with a brief introduction to move things along and tell you a little bit about this next piece. I think you all got copies of the program, and I put some notes about that will help you understand this piece a little bit more. But I wanted to just share a little bit personally about this piece before we go on. This piece, of course, was written by Johann Sebastian Bach. Many historians consider him the greatest composer that our culture has ever, Western culture has ever produced. This piece of his is the beginning of a long line of religious cantatas that he wrote for worship services. He was just in his very early 20s when he wrote this piece, so he was just experimenting and getting his feet underneath him as he was contributing to what was a very important part of the Lutheran worship practice of the day. North Germans, of course, had joined the Lutheran side, most of them, in the wars over the Reformation. But by this time, it was 200 years past that, and Lutheranism was firmly established in northern Germany. What we have here is not just a young man really stretching his wings and trying to sing, hey, what can I do? What can I show everybody to do? He was, after all, just another one in a long line of Bachs who were professional musicians in central Germany at the time. Close to 100 of them we can account for. They were so prevalent throughout Germany at that time, northern Germany, that if you wanted to find out who was going to play organ for your wedding, you walked into a town and you said, who's the Bach in this town? It was kind of a family monopoly on being a church musician. A number of generations, but Johann Sebastian is, of course, the most famous. So this young man comes and he has the opportunity not just to perform to write, I should say, a cantata for a worship service, but a specific kind of worship service. A worship service for a funeral. We think it was for the funeral of his uncle. And in it we have music of exquisite beauty from this young man. But what I find even more fascinating is we have a piece of music with profound theological statements built into the music itself. Unfortunately, they're hard to see if you're not looking at the score. So I've mentioned a few of them in your program, but I'll just give you an idea of what Bach does. He starts with a beautiful sonatina, a funeral procession, if you will. And the mood of it, which is so important in Baroque music, is not one of despair or overt grief. It recognizes the grief in the experience, but you'll hear comfort in this beautiful movement for the orchestra alone. Then the choir comes in and sings, God's time is the best time. And if that's not a theological statement about trust and faith in God, I'm not sure what is. The choir sings a brief statement of that, and then he goes into, in him we live and have our being. And we go from slow music to a fast dance. We are living, and so it's fast and it's happy. We change from that into, but is appointed to every person that we must die. And on the word die, Bach writes a little figure that you're not even going to hear. It's in the tenor part, buried in the middle of the tenor section. And I asked myself, why does he write this little figure that nobody else is going to hear? And if you notice, on it, it's on the word sterben, to die. It's an important word. If you look at the notes, it's here, down, up, and like that. And if you put your fingers from here to there, and there to there, you get the symbol of the cross. And so Bach, with the note figure that he puts there, puts the symbol of the cross over to die. Jesus dies. And he does one more thing. He uses the notes B, A, and B flat. In German, the word for B flat is actually H. So on that figure, he spells his own name. Bach dies for me. Sorry, Jesus dies for me. I promise we won't kill Bach today. He's as dead as he's going to get. But he says, Jesus dies for Bach. On that one little word. He didn't have to do it, you won't even hear it, but he does it because it's important to him theologically. In the next movement, he says, Das ist der alte Bund, this is the old law. And he puts it in the old fugal style. And you'll hear it's very somber, very weighty, each part coming in with the melody at different times. It's like a fugue. And this is the old style. Everybody knew this was the old style, the stile old antico, they called it, the antique style. But then the soprano comes out, and she says, not in despair over death, Ja, ja, Herr Jesu, komm. She welcomes death. Why? The Hebrew word for spirit is ruach, which is a feminine noun. So Bach puts the spirit speaking in the soprano solo voice. And we have both the old law and the new law at the same time. And in the middle of that, he puts another chorale tune in the flutes, and all the Germans back then would have understood the words to that chorale tune were, and I have left everything with God. So in the middle of death, a profound statement of theological hope and positiveness. And at the very end of this movement, it's the strangest ending of a movement I've ever heard in Bach. The soprano trails off to nothing, all the instruments cut out, and that's the moment of death in the middle of this cantata. But Bach doesn't leave us there, because the next line, the alto and the bass, are, "Into your hands I commend my spirit," the words of Jesus on the cross. The alto sings that, a profound statement of faith, and then the bass sings, "Today you will be with me in paradise." And before that happens, the bass comes in with a rising line, and that's the spirit who has just died. The spirit is going back to heaven. So if you know how to read the musical clues, you can see Bach writing an essay on grief and death and the theology of the Christian faith. And he finishes that not with sadness, but with another profound statement of joy. Through Jesus Christ we will live, and you'll hear a wonderful, exciting, joyful fugue at the end. So here's a 21 or 22-year-old young man doing his very best to put into beautiful music the theological statements of the church. I know you'll enjoy Bach's Cantata 160, Gottes Zeit ist die allerbeste Zeit, die Actus Tragicus.